Jungkook was so happy to sing when he saw Jimin in the front row. His tears fell on the last note. The last note. "You're not supposed to be here," Jungkook whispered, his voice cracking as the spotlight fell on the figure in the front row, the one face he thought he'd never see again. The roar of the arena dulled into a vacuum of silence in Jungkook's ears, everything melting away except for the piercing gaze of Jimin. Time slowed. The lights blurred. The chords under his fingers faded into instinct. His breath caught, not because of the thousands of screaming fans or the crescendoing violins behind him, but because the ghost from his past was sitting right there, eyes glassy, lips trembling, clutching something tightly in his hands. A letter. Jungkook barely hit the next verse. His voice faltered, not from the strain of high notes, but from the hurricane swelling in his chest. He had sung this song 100 times, but never like this, not with the truth clawing at his throat. 3 years ago, Jimin had disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation. Just an empty apartment and a voicemail Jungkook played over and over until his ears memorized the static between the words. Everyone said he left for his own sanity, too much pressure, too many expectations. But Jungkook never believed it. He believed in Jimin. Back then, the two of them were inseparable, not just as idols, but as souls bound by something deeper. They had a language of glances, an entire world between the spaces of songs and silence. And then one day, it shattered. Now, under the blinding stage lights of his solo world tour, Jimin reappeared like a hallucination. Jungkook blinked, he was still singing, somehow. The strings surged, and the final chorus loomed, the part he always saved his soul for. But tonight, the words felt like knives. Every lyric mirrored his grief, every melody bled with memories. "I'll love you through the silence, through the storm, through the end." His voice cracked on end. Tears, uninvited, surged down his cheek and splashed onto the mic. He didn't wipe them. Couldn't, wouldn't. He let them fall, raw and open, like the truth he had buried for too long. And still, Jimin didn't look away. He clutched the letter tighter. Jungkook recognized the handwriting even from here. His own. That night, 3 years ago, he'd written it but never sent it, folded it in trembling hands, burned with fear, with shame, with unspoken love. He had thought it was gone. After the final note fell, a soft, aching whisper that trembled in the silence before the crowd erupted, Jungkook stood frozen, breathless. The applause thundered around him like waves crashing against a cliff, but his eyes stayed locked on Jimin, who was no longer seated. He was walking toward the exit. No security stopped him. No one even seemed to notice, as if the universe had parted just for this moment, this one cruel, beautiful mirage. The stage manager's voice crackled in his earpiece. "Encore ready in 30. You good?" Jungkook ripped it out. He sprinted off stage, heart hammering louder than the drums that still echoed behind him. Backstage was a blur of cables, startled crew, and flashing lights. He burst through them all into the corridor, toward the arena exit. Gone. Jimin was gone. But lying on the floor near the door was the letter. Open now, and on the back, scribbled hastily in black ink. "I read it every day. J." Jungkook collapsed to his knees, hands trembling as he clutched the paper. His breath shook, but a strange calm washed over him. Not peace, not yet, but purpose. If Jimin was here once, he could be again. He would be. But first, Jungkook had to face the truth he'd tried to bury with every song, every sold-out stadium, every forced smile. The truth of why he never sent that letter. The truth of what tore them apart. And why someone had wanted them to stay apart forever. This wasn't just about love. This was about betrayal. And now, the stage wasn't the only place where he had to perform. "Why the hell did you run?" Jungkook's voice echoed like a whip crack in the dim hallway of the hotel. The door slammed behind him as he cornered the man he never thought he'd see again. Jimin stood frozen by the window, backlit by the golden haze of the city lights, expression unreadable. "I didn't run," Jimin said softly, not turning around. "I disappeared, that's different." Jungkook scoffed, jaw clenched so tight it ached. Don't play semantics with me, Jimin. You left me. You left everything. No goodbye, no answers. And then tonight you just, sit front row like it's nothing. Jimin finally turned. His eyes were swollen, red-rimmed, but dry now. Dry in the way that only comes after oceans have been spent. You think I wanted to be there? Jimin snapped, his voice rising, cutting through the room like shattered glass. You think this is easy for me? Then why come? Jungkook stepped forward, fists trembling. Why now? Jimin stared at him. There was something behind his gaze, fear, guilt, and something deeper. Something Jungkook had missed for years. Because I finally found the truth, Jimin said, and it changes everything. Jungkook's breath hitched. He felt his pulse in his throat. What truth? Instead of answering, Jimin pulled out a second envelope, worn, yellowed with time. He handed it over. This was supposed to be delivered to you after I left, but someone made sure it never was. Jungkook tore it open with shaking fingers. Inside was a letter, unmistakably in Jimin's handwriting, dated 2 days before his disappearance. If you're reading this, then I've already made the choice they forced on me. The words bled into him, each sentence a dagger laced with heartbreak and confusion. Jimin had been threatened, manipulated by someone within their own circle. Someone who wanted to protect the brand at the cost of their souls. Someone who told Jimin to vanish or watch Jungkook's career burn to the ground. They told me if I didn't leave, they'd release photos of us, Jimin said quietly. From Jeju, from the hotel, from your birthday night. Jungkook remembered that night vividly. Candlelight, trembling hands. A kiss that had tasted like both beginning and goodbye. You didn't even tell me, Jungkook choked. I couldn't, Jimin said. They made me sign an NDA, threatened my family. You were weeks from your solo debut. They said they'd destroy you. Let them try, Jungkook growled. I would have faced it for you. But I couldn't let them ruin you because of me. Jimin's voice cracked. Because I loved you more than I loved myself. Silence crashed between them. The weight of years of unsaid words, of nights Jungkook cried alone in rehearsal studios, of Jimin watching from the shadows, tore through the air like a storm. You let me believe you didn't care, Jungkook whispered, voice hollow. Jimin looked at him with broken defiance. Because if I didn't, I would have crawled back, and we both would have burned. Jungkook turned away, tears stinging. You should have let me choose. But you didn't even know there was a choice. A knock on the door snapped the moment in two. They both froze. Jungkook, a deep voice, his manager. Jungkook didn't move. Jimin's eyes widened in alarm. Don't tell them I'm here, please, not yet. But it was too late. The door opened with a beep, and Mr. Kang walked in, followed by 2 security staff. His eyes landed on Jimin, and his expression twisted. You weren't supposed to make contact, Kang said coldly. We had an agreement. You mean a threat? Jungkook cut in, stepping between them. This is bigger than you think, Kang snapped. You want your career to survive, then you stay away from him. We buried this scandal once. We won't let it surface again. Jungkook took a step forward, voice dangerously low. Touch him, and I'll bury your entire damn agency with one live stream. Kang's smirk faltered. For a moment, no one breathed. Then Jungkook grabbed Jimin's hand. We're leaving. Jimin hesitated. They'll come after us. Let them. They bolted past the stunned guards, down the emergency stairs. Each footstep thundered like a war drum, adrenaline pounding through their veins. Bursting into the alley behind the hotel, Jungkook hailed the first cab he saw. Anywhere far, just go. Inside the car, the silence between them was different. Still charged, still raw, but no longer empty. Where are we going? Jimin finally asked. To find out who really orchestrated this, Jungkook said. Because it wasn't just Kang. He's too small to pull strings like that. Jimin nodded slowly. There was someone else, I always felt it. Jungkook turned to him. Then let's find the bastard, and make them answer for what they did to us. For the first time in years, they were on the same side again, and nothing would ever be the same. Your face is trending #1 in 5 countries, Jimin muttered. eyes glued to his phone screen as the taxi swerved through the rain-slicked streets of Seoul. "The video of you crying on stage is everywhere. They're calling it the last note breakdown." Jungkook's jaw tightened. "Let them talk." "You don't get it." Jimin turned the screen so he could see it. "Someone edited a slow zoom of your tears with captions like proof of heartbreak. They know, Jungkook." "I don't care if they do." His voice was low, dangerous. "I'm done hiding." Jimin looked at him, long and hard. "And what about everything you built? The fans, your deals, the tour, your legacy. You're going to torch it all." "I built it," Jungkook snapped, eyes burning. "And if the foundation is a lie, then maybe it deserves to burn." The cab screeched to a stop outside an old building on the edge of Itaewon. Rust crept along the windows. Faded signs flickered above a locked door. "You sure this is it?" Jimin asked, uncertain. Jungkook nodded. "Namjoon said this is where the old tapes were stored, before everything went digital." "You called Namjoon?" "I trust him." They entered through a side entrance, lights flickering overhead. The air was thick with mildew and dust, ghosts of forgotten years. Rows of filing cabinets and storage boxes loomed like silent sentinels. "What are we looking for?" Jimin whispered. "Proof of who leaked those photos, who sent that ultimatum, who tried to erase us." Jimin's hands trembled as he opened a drawer. What if it was Kang? Jungkook didn't answer. They dug through folders, tapes, and hard drives. Hours passed, the silence broken only by the rustle of papers and the occasional gasp of discovery. Until... "Wait," Jungkook said, pulling out a thin envelope from a misfiled folder labeled Internal Incident Reports. He opened it and froze. "What is it?" Jimin asked, voice tight. Jungkook handed it to him. A blurry black-and-white photo fell into Jimin's hands. It showed the two of them, asleep on a couch, heads resting together. A timestamp marked the date, 4 days before Jimin vanished. Below it, a memo. "Prepare cover plan in case of exposure. Subject JJK emotional volatility is risk to brand integrity. Consider contingency separation." Jimin's eyes widened. "This isn't just about scandal. They thought you were unstable." "They didn't want me unfiltered," Jungkook said coldly. "They wanted a puppet." Suddenly, a sound, footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Jungkook pulled Jimin behind a row of cabinets, just as the door creaked open. A man stepped inside. Familiar, tall, sharp suit, Taehyung. Jungkook's heart sank. Jimin's lips parted in shock. "Taehyung." He walked toward the cabinets, speaking low into a phone. "No, they haven't been here. I'm just checking. No, we'll handle it. I know what's at stake." Then he turned and froze. "Jungkook." "Put the phone down," Jungkook said, stepping out with fire in his eyes. Taehyung didn't move. "You shouldn't be here." "You were part of it," Jimin's voice cracked. "You knew what they were doing to us." "I was trying to protect you," Taehyung shouted. "Both of you, you think I wanted this. I begged them not to go through with it, but they said they'd pull funding, blacklist us." "So you just let them destroy us," Jungkook snarled. "Our friendship, my sanity." Taehyung stepped forward. "You think it was easy for me, watching you fall apart, watching Jimin disappear and knowing I couldn't say a word without endangering all of us. I chose survival. For the group, for the fans, for you." "You chose silence," Jimin whispered. "And that's the same as betrayal." Taehyung's face crumpled. "I never wanted this." "But you let it happen," Jungkook said, voice shaking. "You let it happen." Taehyung dropped his phone. "I can't undo the past, but I can help you now." Silence. "Why should we trust you?" Jimin said. "Because the person behind all this, it wasn't just Kang. It wasn't just the agency." Jungkook stepped forward, veins ice cold. "Then who?" Taehyung hesitated, then looked Jungkook dead in the eyes. "Your father." Jungkook went still. The air thickened, sound evaporated, gravity shifted. "No," he said, voice barely a whisper. Taehyung nodded grimly. "He's been financing the agency from behind the scenes for years, pulled strings, manipulated execs. He thought Jimin was contaminating your career, said love was a distraction, said he'd rather see you alone and on top than loved and compromised. Jungkook staggered back like he'd been shot. You're lying. Why do you think your mother left? Taehyung asked gently. She couldn't take it either. Jungkook collapsed against a cabinet, breath shallow. He made me choose. All those years, I thought I was just never enough for him. He never wanted you to feel enough, Jimin said, crouching beside him. Because if you did, you'd stop needing his approval. Jungkook looked up, eyes blazing. I'm done needing anything from that man. He stood. It ends tonight. No, Taehyung stepped in. If you go at him publicly, he'll bury you. We need to be smart. What do you suggest? Jimin asked. I have recordings, Taehyung said. Phone calls, emails, I've been collecting them, waiting for the right moment. Jungkook stared at him. Then this is it. Taehyung nodded. But there's one more thing. What? He's not working alone. He has someone else, someone close to you, feeding him everything. Jungkook's blood ran cold. Who? Taehyung looked at him slowly. Your stylist, Min. The room tilted. Jungkook's voice dropped. She's like family. She's been feeding your schedule, your conversations, everything to your father. For years. Jungkook's hands curled into fists. Then we confront her. Tonight. No, Jimin said suddenly. We don't confront her, we trap her. Jungkook and Taehyung both turned to him. Jimin's eyes burned with purpose. Let her think she's winning. Let her send one last message. And when she does... Jungkook finished the sentence. We expose them all. The stylist's hands moved with clinical precision as she adjusted the collar of Jungkook's jacket backstage. Her touch was soft, practiced, maternal, exactly how it had always been. And yet, tonight, it made his skin crawl. You look beautiful, as always, Min said with a gentle smile, brushing an imaginary speck of dust from his shoulder. Jungkook met her eyes in the mirror, forcing a smile so convincing it scared even him. Thanks, Nuna. Couldn't have done any of this without you. She chuckled, warm and familiar. Don't say that. You were already gold before I ever touched you. Jimin watched from the corner, leaning casually against the wall, arms crossed. His silence was a thundercloud, ready to break. He hadn't spoken a word to her. Neither had Taehyung, who stood just outside the dressing room, keeping a lookout, pretending to be on a phone call. Jungkook slipped his phone from his pocket and tapped record. The screen lit for a second before he tilted it down. You okay? Min asked, eyeing him carefully now. Just a little nervous, Jungkook replied smoothly. A lot on my mind. She patted his arm. That's normal. The pressure, the expectations, but you always rise above it. He nodded, even when people try to sabotage me. There was a flicker, a hesitation in her eyes so slight most wouldn't catch it. But Jungkook had spent years reading expressions on stage, knowing how to detect the tremble of a lip, the blink of a lie. What do you mean? She asked, her voice light. I mean, he turned to her fully, voice still calm. What if someone close to me, someone I trusted, was feeding my father information about me? Min face remained still, unreadable. That's a heavy accusation. He stepped closer. You were there when he showed up at the showcase in 2021. You said you were just surprised as me, but he quoted something I'd only told you the day before, word for word. Her jaw tightened for half a second, then she smiled. You were under a lot of stress that week. Maybe you forgot you told someone else. No, Jimin said suddenly, his voice sharp as a blade. He didn't. Min turned to him, brows raised. Jimin, it's been a while. He didn't return the smile. Long enough to forget who was on our side, and who was. Taehyung stepped in then, shutting the door behind him. We know everything, Min. We have your calls, the emails, even the footage of you slipping a copy of the Jeju photos into an envelope addressed to Mr. Jeon. Her face fell, not into guilt, but into cold, calculated steel. You went through my private things. No, Jungkook said. You left a trail, because deep down you wanted to be caught. Min folded her arms. You think you're ready to confront the truth? Do you really believe your father's the monster here? You have no idea how much he's protected you. Jungkook's voice was quiet. Protected me? He destroyed the only thing that ever felt real. She stepped closer. He gave you everything. Fame, control, safety. All he asked was that you stay focused, that you keep your name clean. And break the heart of the only person who ever loved me without a script, Jungkook snapped. That's not control, that's prison. She sighed. You're too young to understand the weight of legacy. No, Jimin cut in. He's too human to carry it like a weapon. Min Seo looked between them, lips twitching in disgust. You think this reunion of yours is some kind of redemption arc, this fairy tale about star-crossed idols defying the machine. Call it what you want, Jungkook said, stepping past her. But we're going live, tonight. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. I already did, he whispered. From his jacket pocket, he pulled out his phone. The screen displayed a blinking red dot. Live, 26,472 viewers. Her face turned to ice. All of it, he said softly. Every word, they heard everything. She lunged, but Taehyung blocked her effortlessly. Security burst in moments later, summoned silently by his earlier message. Min Seo didn't struggle. She just glared at Jungkook like a disappointed mother. You think this will end it, she spat as they pulled her away. He'll still find a way to crush you. Then let him try, Jungkook said. The door slammed shut behind her. The silence that followed was thick and echoing. Jungkook sat heavily on the dressing room chair, elbows on knees, hands shaking. She raised me, he said softly. She braided my hair before rehearsals. She made me kimchi stew when I was sick. Jimin crouched in front of him. That wasn't love, Jungkook. That was loyalty to power. There's a difference. Taehyung nodded. She never saw you, only the image. Jungkook met Jimin's eyes. But you saw me. Jimin smiled. I never stopped. A knock interrupted the moment. It was a production assistant, pale and shaking. Sorry, but the live stream, it's viral. News outlets are already picking it up. Agencies are panicking. Jungkook stood. Good. The assistant hesitated. Your father's legal team just issued a statement. They're threatening defamation charges. Let them, he said. No, Jimin said gently. Let's beat them with truth, not war. Jungkook nodded slowly. Then we give them more truth. He turned to Taehyung. You still have the recordings. All of them. Then tomorrow, Jungkook said, eyes like fire, we burn the illusion down, and we show them who we really are. That night they didn't sleep. Not because they were afraid, but because, for the first time in years, they felt awake. Alive. And somewhere, behind the glass walls of a skyscraper soaked in artificial light, Jungkook's father sat watching the broadcast replay on loop, unblinking. He picked up his phone. Activate Plan B, he said. The war had just begun. The studio was eerily quiet. Just past midnight, Seoul's city lights bled through the wide windows, casting pale rectangles across the black marble floors. Jungkook stood under the spotlight, mic in hand, staring into the camera lens like it was the barrel of a gun. This is me, he said, voice steady. No edits, no filters, no handlers. Behind the scenes, Jimin watched with his arms folded across his chest, heart in his throat. Taehyung stood nearby, ready to trigger the next file, an audio recording from 3 years ago that would confirm everything. The agency, the silencing, the manipulation, the betrayal. Jungkook's voice cracked slightly. For years, I told myself I was free because I could sing, because I had the world at my feet, but I wasn't free. I was manufactured, polished, positioned, and then they told me I had to choose between love and legacy, between truth and silence. The chat feed on the livestream exploded, messages flying faster than the eye could read. Fans, reporters, haters, truth seekers, everyone was watching. He stepped back and gave a single nod to Taehyung. The audio played. Terminate the relationship quietly. Leak photos if necessary. Public sympathy will side with Jungkook if we frame it as betrayal. Jimin's emotional state can be used to our advantage. Jimin flinched at the sound of the voice. Mr. Jeon, Jungkook's father. The world heard it, the whole damn world. But before the final sentence could play, the feed cut to black. A loud pop. Taehyung swore, "We lost signal." Jungkook turned sharply. "What?" "Someone's jamming the stream. It's not from here. It's external power surge system interference. This was premeditated." Jimin grabbed his phone. "The agency just released a counter-statement. They're saying the audio is fake, deepfake technology. They're accusing you of manufacturing lies to manipulate public sympathy." Jungkook's blood went cold. They were ready. "They've activated bots," Taehyung said, reading off another screen. "The hashtags are flipping. Jungkook exposed, fall of an idol, fabricated confession. This is psychological warfare." Suddenly, Jungkook's phone buzzed. A private message. No name, no number, just one sentence. "You forced my hand." And then an attachment. A video. He opened it. It was grainy footage. Security cam. Hotel room. Jimin's figure, barely dressed, packing, visibly distraught. Alone. The timestamp dated 3 years ago, right before he vanished. "Don't," Jimin said, his voice low, already knowing. "Don't play it." But Jungkook did. The video was cut together cruelly, silent, no context, with overlays that painted a story of infidelity, drug use, emotional instability. The narrative was clear. Jimin was dangerous, unstable, a liability. "They're going to release this," Jungkook whispered. Jimin was pale, frozen. "It's not real. That footage, yes, it's me, but the story they're telling with it is fake. I was withdrawing from anxiety meds. I was having panic attacks. I know," Jungkook said. "I know." Taehyung looked like he was going to throw up. "They're going to flip the whole narrative, paint you as the victim of manipulation. Say Jimin seduced you, poisoned you, derailed your mental health." Jungkook's voice darkened. "They want to kill his reputation, so I'll be too ashamed to defend him." The screen went black again. Another message came in. "We can make this go away, all of it. Just walk away. Issue a retraction. Say you were lied to. Say Jimin coerced you. Say the recordings were fake." Jimin let out a soft, broken laugh. "They're still trying to write your lines for you." "No," Jungkook whispered. "Not anymore." He grabbed the second mic, walked back to the dead camera, and stared into the lens again. "If you're seeing this," he said, "it means they failed to silence us completely. But they're trying. They're trying right now to erase the truth and replace it with a lie. They want to convince you that love is weakness, that emotion is a liability, that honesty is dangerous." Jimin stepped into frame beside him. Their shoulders touched. The image was undeniable. Two people, defiant, together. "They want you to think I'm broken," Jimin said, voice trembling but clear. "That I'm unstable, that I destroyed him. But they broke me first. They gaslit me, starved me, told me I was only valuable if I stayed invisible." Jungkook looked at him, eyes shining. "You saved me." Taehyung pushed the feed to a private backup server, reconnected it to a separate relay, bypassed the agency's digital grip. The camera came back on, live again, comments flooded in. Hearts, screaming emojis, cries of support, disbelief, rage. And then, the big moment. Taehyung uploaded the uncut recording, every minute of the call with Mr. Jeon. Names, details, threats. Within minutes, it was mirrored across thousands of platforms. The agency couldn't stop it now. But the cost came swiftly. By sunrise, their phones were flooded, sponsorships dropping, tour dates canceled, media attacks spiraling. Jungkook's agent called, begging him to stop. "You've made your point," she pleaded. "Just apologize and this all goes away." "I don't want it to go away," Jungkook said. "I want it to mean something." By noon, they were summoned to a press conference, public forum, emergency statement from the agency. They arrived, together, walking through flashing cameras, 100 voices screaming their names. Inside, Mr. Jeon stood at the podium, his tie perfectly straight, his expression unreadable. Jungkook stepped forward, cutting across the stage. He faced his father for the first time in public. The world held its breath. "You taught me how to win," Jungkook said into the mic, "but I had to teach myself how to live." Mr. Jeon's eyes narrowed. "You've made a fool of yourself." "No," Jungkook said, voice hard. "I've made a man out of myself." Then he took Jimin's hand, raised it. "Whatever comes next," he said, "I face it with him." Flashbulbs burst, screams erupted. Some cheered, some gasped, some cursed. But no one looked away, because the illusion had shattered. And all that remained was truth, raw and unflinching. "You're trending again," Taehyung muttered, phone glowing cold blue in the early morning haze of their hotel suite. "Only this time, it's a war zone." Jungkook stared at the screen silently. The split was vicious. Half the comments were love letters written in fire. The other half were death threats cloaked in hashtags. "I thought it would be freeing," Jungkook said softly, staring out the window. "But it just feels like a spotlight with no off switch." "You broke the mirror, Jungkook," Jimin replied from the couch, legs tucked under him. "Now everyone's trying to find where the cracks lead." The room was a mess. Wires, laptops, coffee cups, hastily packed bags. Taehyung hadn't slept in 36 hours, and Jimin hadn't eaten in 12. Jungkook was somewhere between sleepwalking and rage. The door buzzed. No one moved. Then it buzzed again, urgent. Jimin got up slowly and peeked through the eye-hole. "It's Yoongi." Jungkook blinked. "Yoongi." Taehyung stood. "Let him in." The door opened, and in stepped Min Yoongi, hood up, glasses on, face pale. He looked older than Jungkook remembered, more tired, but his eyes were sharp as ever. "You really pissed off Olympus," Yoongi muttered, setting a flash drive on the table. "So here's a match, burn it all." "What is it?" Taehyung asked. "Every dirty transaction from the agency's private accounts. Money laundering, off-the-books payoffs to journalists, even hush money to families of trainees He stopped, jaw clenched. "You name it." Jimin sat up. "Why do you have this?" Yoongi gave a humorless laugh. "You think I stayed in the system this long because I was loyal? No, I stayed because I was watching, waiting. The day they broke you, Jimin, was the day I started collecting receipts." Jungkook stared at him, stunned. "Why now?" "Because you were the first one with the balls to stop singing and start screaming," Yoongi said. "And I'm tired of surviving in silence." Taehyung plugged in the drive. Files opened. Pages of data, transfers, flight manifests, cover-ups, even a list labeled exposables. Jimin's name was at the top. Yoongi lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "You were scheduled for mental breakdown PR coverage. Photos, fake texts, therapist testimony. They were going to frame you as suicidal and leak it, then pin it on Jungkook's emotional instability." Jimin looked like he'd been punched. I thought I was paranoid." "You weren't," Yoongi said. "You were targeted." Jungkook's voice broke. "They were going to kill your reputation, erase you." "No," Jimin whispered. "They were going to kill me, slowly, quietly, with sympathy and flowers and hashtags and fake mourning." The weight of it crashed into the room like a collapsing building. Taehyung stood. "We go public with this, all of it." "No," Yoongi said. "Not yet." Jungkook turned to him. "Why?" "Because your father isn't done," Yoongi said. "He's preparing a press conference. I have a source. He's going to present a doctored psychological report claiming you have dissociative identity disorder, that your recent confession was part of a breakdown." "They're going to say I'm crazy," Jungkook whispered. "They already are," Yoongi said, "but they want to make it official. Signed, sealed, certified, so you can't fight back." Silence. "Then we beat them at their own game," Jimin said. "We bring in someone they can't touch." "Like who?" Taehyung asked. Jimin's eyes narrowed. "Dr. Yoongi." Yoongi blinked. "She disappeared 5 years ago." "She disappeared," Jimin said, "because she refused to sign a report against a trainee who committed suicide in 2018. She went into hiding, but I know where she is." Jungkook stared at him. "How?" "Because she saved me once," Jimin whispered. Before you and I ever happened. Later that night, under a full moon and a thunderstorm threatening on the horizon, they drove north. No security, no stylists, just 4 souls in a car chasing one fragile chance at truth. They found her in a remote town, living under a different name, teaching piano to children. She didn't ask why they were there. She simply opened the door, looked at Jungkook, and said, "I wondered how long it would take you to find me." Jungkook blinked. "You knew." "I knew the day you sang, the last note, that this was going to come to a head," she said. "And I've been waiting." She took them inside, poured tea, listened. When Jungkook asked her to testify publicly, she didn't flinch. "Yes." Just like that. "No hesitation," he asked. She looked him in the eye. "I watched too many of you get buried alive. You, Jimin, Hoseok, even trainees who never saw daylight. I have nightmares of their parents crying in silence. I'm tired of pretending. I'm old. I have nothing left to lose." Jimin gripped her hand. "Thank you." The rain began as they left her house. Heavy, cleansing. In the car, Jungkook turned to Jimin. "Do you think we'll survive this?" Jimin didn't answer at first. Then, softly, "No, not as who we were, but maybe as who we're meant to be." Jungkook reached across the console and took his hand, held it like an anchor in the storm. And somewhere far away, behind polished glass and quiet menace, Mr. Jeon stared at the leaked files pouring across the internet. Yoongi had pulled the trigger. His assistant rushed in, panicked. "Sir, they've gone public, the documents, the accounts. Dr. Yoongi just released a statement. She named you." Mr. Jeon didn't move. He stared at the screen. And smiled. "Then activate phase 3, he said. Because he still had one move left, one final piece. And it was already inside Jungkook's circle, waiting, watching, breathing. The air inside the arena buzzed with a tension that felt radioactive. It wasn't a concert. Not tonight. No music. No dancers. No screaming fans. Just a stage, a single spotlight, and a silence so thick it could snap. Jungkook stood in the center of it all. Outside, thousands had gathered, some in support, some out of morbid curiosity, some hired to stir chaos. Police lined the streets. Drones floated overhead. The world was watching. "This is the last time I'll speak as your idol," he said, voice steady, broadcast live across every major network. "After this, I'll just be a man again." Jimin stood behind the curtain, hidden, hand pressed to his chest, heart thudding in rhythm with each word. Taehyung was with the tech crew, ensuring the signal couldn't be hacked again. And Yoongi, lurking near the arena's private entrance, watched the shadows, waiting for the final betrayal they all knew was coming. Because there was one piece left. One pawn. And none of them knew who it was. Jungkook continued, his voice growing stronger. "They told me that love would ruin me, that emotion made me weak, that honesty would end my career, and they were right. It did ruin something." He paused, eyes shining. "It ruined the lie." The crowd erupted in applause outside. Inside, the tension snapped tighter. Security shifted, a murmur in the earpieces. Something wasn't right. Yoongi's phone vibrated. From unknown. "You forgot to check under your nose." He looked up and saw her. Min Seo, smiling, calm, walking into the control booth like she belonged. But she had been arrested, banned, publicly denounced. And yet here she was. She plugged in a small device, black, barely larger than a thumb drive. Yoongi moved fast, but not fast enough. Every screen in the arena flickered. The live stream began to glitch, then static. And then came the voice. "Ladies and gentlemen, the truth you've been fed is just another illusion." Mr. Jeon appeared on the screens, seated behind a desk like a president addressing a nation. Composed, cold. "My son is sick. He is not of sound mind. The manipulation he has endured by this man," a grainy photo of Jimin appeared, "has destroyed the boy I raised." Jimin's stomach twisted. "He is being used by people who want to dismantle the very industry that made him. But I will not allow it, not as a father. not as the man who built this empire. Then the footage cut, suddenly, jarringly, to something worse. Jungkook, years younger, screaming in a studio, shoving equipment, punching a mirror. Blood. Edited to look unhinged, edited to frame him as unstable. Jungkook froze. The crowd outside grew restless. "That was during my panic attacks," he whispered. "They recorded everything." The screens switched back to Mr. Jeon. "I am placing my son under temporary psychiatric guardianship, as allowed by law under emergency mental health statutes. Effective immediately." Gasps echoed across the room. Jungkook's eyes widened. "He's trying to institutionalize me." Yoongi burst into the control booth. "Kill the feed." Too late. Police were already entering the building. "Step aside," one of them ordered. "We have orders to escort Mr. Jeon Jungkook into protective care." Taehyung stood in their way. "He's not a criminal, he's a survivor." "He's unstable," the officer replied, "and this is court-ordered." "No," came a voice calm, commanding. Dr. Yoon-jae stepped forward from the backstage shadows, holding a document. "This is a counter-affidavit from a licensed psychiatrist, fully reviewed by an independent medical board. Jungkook is of sound mind and under no threat to himself or others." Jimin moved to Jungkook's side, standing tall, unshaking. "Your father's influence ends here," she said. Silence. Then a ripple of applause. From inside the arena, the production crew, then the staff, then outside, the crowd erupted. Not in rage, but in rebellion. Phones lit up, hashtags exploded. "We see you, Jungkook, stand with Jimin, end the lies." Mr. Jeon's voice crackled once more through the speaker. "You think this ends me?" Jungkook stepped to the mic, gaze calm. "No, I think this frees me." He looked at the cameras, at the thousands, at the millions. "I'm not your perfect idol," he said. "I'm not your fantasy, I'm just me. I loved someone I wasn't supposed to. I broke under pressure. I bled under lights, but I'm still standing." He turned and held out his hand. Jimin took it. In the soft silence that followed, the cameras kept rolling. No script. No illusion. Just two hands clasped tight. Outside, the rain began again, but this time it felt like something cleansing, a curtain falling, a new story beginning. And somewhere, in a quiet, empty office, Mr. Jeon stared at a wall of blank monitors. Alone. Because the machine he built wasn't made to withstand truth. Only illusion. And illusion, at last, had shattered. Jungkook and Jimin walked off stage, not as idols, but as people. Unhidden. Unashamed. Unbroken. The end.